This is Guitar Music Theory for Songwriters, Part 2. I'm going to real quick go over what we did in Part 1. So Part 1, we started with chords and finding out the chords are 3 notes. The root, which is, let's say your scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, would be do. The third would be re, mi. Fa would be 4, and 5 would be so. So it's do, mi, so, do, mi, so. The root, the third, and the fifth. So do, mi, so. In the key of C, that's a major chord if C is your bottom note. Do, mi, so. The 4 chord is also a major chord. That would be built on the 4th step of the scale, starting on fa. So those notes would be fa, so la, do. And then the chord built on the 5th step of the scale, do, re, mi, fa, so, would be so, ti, re. That's a major chord also. So the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord are major chords. All the other chords are minor, except for that wacky 7 chord, which we don't use that much, so don't worry about it. The 2 chord, the 3 chord are minor. The 6 chord is also minor. So we have in a major scale, right? The way it's built is a series of half and whole steps. There's only 2 half steps, the rest are wholes. So all I have to remember is the half step goes between mi and fa and ti and do. Everything else is a half step. So that's between mi and fa. Do, re, mi, fa, da, 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 da. Really close together. Mi, fa, do, re, mi, fa. Half step. So la, ti, do, ti, do, ti, do. Those 2 notes are real close together too. The other ones are a whole step apart. So do, re, do, da, do, re, do, da, da. There's a note in between. Do, re, do, da, da. That's why it's a whole step. And mi to fa is half step. Do, re, mi, fa, mi, fa. There's no note in between mi and fa. There's no note in between ti and do. That's the way a scale is built. That's a major scale. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. If you sing the scale, but don't start on do. If you start on la, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. Let's go down because I'm going to get too high. Do, ti, la, la, ti, do, ti, la. Let's start a scale on la. La, ti, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do, ti, la. That's the minor scale. It's the exact same notes. You're just starting in a different spot. Major and minor scales are relative to each other. If you start a major scale on the 1 note, you get a major, right? If you start on the 6th note, which is la, you get the minor. The 6 is the minor. The 1 is a major. Remember we said the 1, the 4, and the 5 are major chords? If you start on la, which is a minor, you get a minor scale. That's the way the major and the minor scales work. So there are other scales. There's one you can start on re and on mi, but those are like Phrygian and all these weird names for them, those other scales, but we don't use them too much. We use mostly major and minor. So that's what we'll stick with. That's all you have to need to know about scales. The rest of it, who cares? It's too complicated. You'll never use it. It doesn't matter unless you're some kind of wacky lead guitarist who loves to play in the Dorian minor mode scale. And we're songwriters, right? Yeah, Louise.
It went by a little fast for me. I wasn't sure if you said the 1, 4, and 5, those are the major scales?
Those are major chords, right?
But didn't you say 1, 3, and 5? Or that's the notes. So 1,
yeah. So
okay.
if we take a major scale and we go if we call the notes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
Right,
When we get to the eighth note, it would be one again, right? Because we're back to
right.
do, re, mi, fa. So la, ti, do. Well, do is the eighth note, right? So we actually have seven that we use, and the eighth is the repeat, and eight octave. That's why it's an octave, eight, right? So if we take one, do, skip a note, skip a re, go to mi, do, mi, skip fa, go to so, do, mi, so. That's a major chord. Do, mi, so, do, da, da, do, mi, so.
That's the chord. And the
That's a major
scales,
chord. It's
one, four,
using the
five.
notes in the scale, the one, the three, and the five. That gives
Right.
you a major chord. If you do the same thing on fa, the four, if you start on the four and skip every note, every other note, right? Just like we did with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You start on four and you do the same thing there, you will get another major chord. And on five, you will get a major chord. If you try it on 2 and 3, you get minors. On 6, you get a minor.
Thank you. I got it.
Okay, so scales are kind of like you can take them or leave them. You know, they help, but they're not absolutely essential to know. What's more important to know is that how to spell chords. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard that term before, but spelling a chord means if we take a C chord, let's say, what are the notes in a C chord? C, E, G. I know it. You probably know it too. But I know how to spell all the chords that fast. I can spell E minor, E, G, B. I can spell G, G, B, D. I can spell D, D, F, A, right? And this is how I do it. It's not too difficult to learn because you go C, E, G, G, start with a G now, G, B, D. Now start with a D, D, F, A. Start with A, C, E. I'm skipping every other note in the alphabet. See how that does that? C, E, G, G, B, D, D, F, A, C, E, E, G, B, B, D, F, F, A, C, and I'm back to the start. It's something that I've done enough. So it's like learning your ABCs, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, except it's learning how to spell chords that way. So you take the 1, the 3, and the 5, C, E, G. Well, G is the fifth note. Have you ever heard of circle of fifths? You ever heard that term? Well, this is what circle of fifths is. We're going up to the fifth. Now we're going to spell the chord off the fifth. Okay, G, B, D. Now off of D, we'll spell the next chord, D, F, A. I'm skipping every other note in the alphabet. Of course, when you get to G, you got to go back to A, right? There's no H in music alphabet, right? So we had D, F, A. Now A, C, E, E, G, B, B, D, F, F, A, C. And we're back to the start. That's all the chords that you probably ever will need to play, but you may have to adjust them a little bit for key signatures. Don't worry too much about it. If it doesn't sound right, you're probably a half step off and you just slide that middle note a little bit, one up one fret, down one fret, and then it's going to work for you. You'll find the chord where you're supposed to, close to where you're supposed to be. So learning to spell chords is a cool thing to do. You know, it helps you when you're trying to figure out like what was that chord I played in this key? Now I'm trying to transpose it playing in the other key. That gets really confusing. Well, a circle of fifths is helpful for other stuff. We'll get to it later. But that's spelling chords. That's what spelling chords is. It's very helpful if you're writing music, but you probably won't write notes down on a page. We have recorders. Recorders do that stuff. We don't have to write notes down on pages anymore. The only reason you write notes down on pages is another way to store it, you know. And it's helpful for people who don't improvise well. Like my wife, she does not improvise at all. She hates improvising, but she can read music like a whiz. She can read anything you put down in front of her. So I'll write it out for her. She plays it perfectly. It's great. It works for her. All right. So we did chords. There's two kinds of chords we mostly deal with. The major chords, those are the happy ones, right? They have the happier sound. A chord, a major chord, right? Here it is, the happy sound. Same chord. Now we're going to take the third of the chord. What is it in A? Kathy's saying C. I can see your lips move. C, right? So but in an A chord, it's a C sharp. That's what I'm saying. You'll have to adjust a little bit with a sharp to make it work. But so it's that C. So there's that C sharp, right? Now to make it a chord, a minor chord, you take the third of the chord. In A, that's a C, A, B, C sharp. Now we're going to lower it a half step. Now it's a minor chord. The difference between a major and a minor chord is the third. You take that third and you move it down a half step, it's a minor chord. Major chord. Okay, let's take a G major chord, right? I'm going to play the bar version here, right? That's the third. G, B, that's the third, right? Now I'll lower the third a half step, put that in the chord, and we get the G minor. Difference between the major and minor. The third is a half step lower in the minor chord from a major. That's pretty easy to do, except for that damn key signature thing. Well, don't worry about it. There's chord charts and everything out there to help you out with any of that stuff to figure it out. Okay, so the major and minor, that's important because it helps you to get the idea of the happy and the sad sounds. I think they go together with words. I think that's a really important concept, is to link a minor chord with the sadder parts of your lyric and the major chords with the happier parts of your lyrics. It's a pretty subtle thing, but it really works really well. I wrote an example out and I didn't play it last time and I wanted to play it for you this time. Let's see if we can get that. I forget which page it's on. But it goes something like this. Now I'm in the key of C, right? Playing the C chord. Now I'll go up. Let's say this is the bridge of our song. We're going to the middle of the song. Okay, now I'm in the middle of the song, right? Here I go to the middle. Our happy day, it went astray. I went from happy to sad, right? With the chord. Oh, the good times we had, they somehow turned bad. I just took the same chord and played the minor version of it. That 4 minor, right? You're taking and you're doing an alternate chord or substituting a chord for the one that usually goes there. That 4 minor is super effective in a bridge or in a some kind of a transitional thing going to another section. It really works well in a bridge. Now you're going to notice it like a red umbrella. You know, the red umbrella theory is that if somebody says to you, when was the last time you saw a red umbrella? All of a sudden, you're going to see red umbrellas everywhere. They're just going to seem to pop up everywhere you go. Everywhere you look, you're going to see it, right? Well, that F minor, that 4 minor is going to be like really prevalent to you all of a sudden. The good times we had, they all went so bad, crazy. Right? It's a cool thing. That minor chord can really throw an extra level of like pathos or passion or like melancholy into your lyric. It really works really well. Of course, it gets overused and you don't want to do that in every song you write, but once in a while, throwing that thing in there, man, that's a killer. It really works well. So that's what alternate chords are. Sometimes it's just taking them a chord you would expect to be a major chord and playing a minor chord there. And if you're singing the root note of the chord, ba, da, 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 it still works with the minor because you're singing a note that didn't change in the chord. So you might have to change your melody just a little bit to fit with that minor chord, but it's worth it to make it work right. Okay, so we went over major, minor. Then we got to seventh chords, and you count up from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In C, you would get to a B before it goes to C, right? That would be 7. Well, it's easier to go down from 8, which would be the C again, and go down to 7, which is B. So let's play a B in our C chord. That gives you a C major 7 chord. But you can also play a C with a B flat in it. That B in there gives you a different sounding C chord. That's the C7 or C dominant chord. And that one wants to move. So it's a really cool thing in the key of C. When you're going to go up to your next chord is to make your one chord a dominant chord all of a sudden. Make it that C7. Well, the good times we had, because it gives it that, it wants to resolve. It wants to go something. It wants to do that. It wants to go to the next chord. We'll talk about that a little more after. So there's different kinds of sevenths. There's minor sevenths. You take a minor chord and you just stick the 7th note into it. A. Put a G in it. Now we got an A minor because A and down from that to the 7th note of A would be that G, right? Does that make sense to you? Are you catching that? So A would be 8, right? Then an A, it go down, G. It's the note comes before A. That would be 7. Count up from A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There's no H. We got to go back to A. That's a little bit confusing, I know. Stupid music. Actually, the Germans use an H and they use it for B flat for some unknown reason. Crazy. Okay. So there's also 6. 6 are very cool. My favorite chord, 6. You get this. You get, so in A, count up A to the 6th note of A, B, C, D, E, F. But in the key of A, it's be that F sharp. So you get this. So it's a cool way the old rock and rollers used to end song. They'd end the song with the 6th chord like that. It was a really fun thing to do. With that 6th note in it. But there's a cooler way to play a 6th chord, and it's in that new handout that I put in, and it's a weird form. And we'll get to that in just a minute too. So there's 6 and there's 9ths, which, so in C, the 6th note would be an A. The 7th note would be a B. In C, which would the 9th note be? It'd be the D. Right. It would be the D. So we're going to play. There's the 9. C is 8. Do, It's actually like adding re into your chord. So you can add the ninth like that, or you can consider that it's adding an extra note from your built up every other note idea of what a chord is. So in C, every other note would be C. We're going to drop D, go to E, C, E, drop G, B, D. You see how that's every other note? So D would be that every other note, and the B in there would be actually a B flat, but you get this chord. Sounds kind of like a C7, except you got that extra little a seventh note in there too. So I substitute C9s all the time for C7s, or anytime I play a seventh chord, I'll substitute the 9 in there too, because it sounds cool. It just sounds great. It works almost always. It's almost always okay to play a 9 in place of just a 7. Adds a little bit extra to it. So that's really fun to do. And it's an easy thing to do. It's usually just dropping one more finger down. Then we talked about sustained chords. In a sustained chord, it works really well in D. Great examples, right? Like a you take your pinky and you put it down on the G. So D, F is your third. You're actually going to play the fourth note, right? The 4 to 3, and that's a suspension. You're suspending, and then you're resolving. And so many times you'll hear that on songs like. Or how about suspension? Ever since I was a young man, I played the silver ball. From solo down to Brighton, I must have played them all suspensions. Never seen nothing like him in any music hall. That deaf, dumb, and blind kid sure plays a mean pinball. Etc. All built out of suspension. The whole song out of using a suspension. You suspend the 4 and you resolve it to the 3. The suspension is the fourth note resolved to the third. You do that to major chords. There is such a thing as minor suspensions, jazzy things, don't worry about it. It's usually on major chords. Okay, so we covered all that stuff in the first part. Now, what I thought I'd get more into is alternate chords in the second part of this theory stuff. Alternate chords and substitutions. I'm going to share a screen with you and try to show you how this idea of the circle of fifths works. Do I not have it up? I guess I don't have it up again. Okay, I got to go for it. I got to go look for it. Hang on with me while we go find it. I got to get to here, I guess. I don't know. All this is still confusing to me too, folks, but we'll get it. Okay, so what is that? I don't want that. Okay, here it is. Circle of fifths. I found it. Do you see that, everybody?
Oh boy.
Okay, so here's the circle of fifths. This looks like a terribly confusing thing, but you remember I talked about the relative minor chord That's the relative of a major chord, right? They're related. In C, which is the one straight at the top, right at the 12 o'clock position, the relative minor for a C chord is A minor. And the reason for that is that they have almost the same notes in them. C, E, G is the major chord, right? And the A minor chord is A, C, E. Well, it's got the C and E in it that are the same. It's got two of the same notes in it. So it's almost the same thing. It's got one different note between the two chords. So they're related. How do you find the minor? You can substitute that A minor for a C chord. You can substitute that minor chord. It's actually the sixth note up. If you count up from C, C, D, E, F, G, A would be six up from C. And that's your minor chord, your relative minor. So if you're playing a song, you can throw in a relative minor for that major chord.
Still didn't
Just
get this.
substitute it, give it a little bit more variety. I'll do an example of this for you. I'll go back and show this to you, hopefully a little bit bigger, okay? I know it's hard to see the guitar in this setting, but most of you know this, right? We're going to substitute major, the minor for the major chord. I'm going to sing a Carole King song that I think you know. When this old world starts getting me down and people are just too much for me to face, I'll get right up to the top of the stairs and all my cares just drift out into space. Works perfectly fine with the 1, the 4, and the 5, the G, the C, and D, right? Those are the 1, 4, 5 in the key of G, right? G, C, D. Well, what was the relative minor? It's up 6 notes from your basic chord. So let's take a G and find the relative minor for it. It would G, A, B, C, D, E, the 6th note up. We can substitute an E minor in there for the G chord. And this old world starts getting me down, and people are just too much for me to face. Instead of strumming a G chord the whole time, I played half on G and half on the E minor. So that relative minor works often. Often it'll work really well. And in your own songwriting, you can do that. If you find your song is getting a little dull, you're hanging on one chord too much, try the relative minor in there. If this old world starts getting you down, if this old world starts getting you down, and people are just too much for me to face. You can do that in a lot of the chords. This old world starts getting me down instead of C. And people, the relative minor to C is A. People are just too much for me to face. Now I've substituted the relative minor for the 1 chord and for the 4 chord. How did I find the relative minor of C? You go C, D, E, F, G, A. It's the 6th note up. This old world starts getting me down, and people are just too much for me to face. You can go on substituting chords. I can substitute instead of the 1 chord, the 1 major 7 chord. I can play a major 7 for that first chord. When this old world, except I don't like this inversion very much. I play kind of a jazzy inversion. It's this one. It's kind of a cool inversion, but you can find it in a chord chart. When this old world starts getting me down, and people are just too much for me to face. Same song, same lyric, same melody, just a little bit substituted chords. And all of a sudden it sounds, you can go overboard and gets too loungy sounding, you know, but a little bit of it is really, really good. You know, it could get to this point. And this whole world starts getting me down, and people are just too much for me to face. All of a sudden you sound like you're, you know, the lounge band at the Holiday Inn on Saturday night. But chord substitutions, substituting the minor for the major chord, the relative minor, works really well. And it's great for your own songwriting because you might have to change your melody a little tiny bit sometimes to make it work. But man, it just opens up a whole new world of chords. Instead of 1, 4, 5, you've got, you know, the 1, the 3, the 6, the 4, the 5. All of a sudden it's really, really cool. So look at this. Okay, G. We said it, the minor is the 6. Well, let's take this as, right, root note of the chord, the G. I'm playing there on the 3rd fret, right? Can you see that? So if this is 1 or 8, right? They're the same note, 1 and 8. It's the repetition, right? As you go up 7 steps, you get to 8. So this is the same as 8. So 8, 7, 6. There's a half step between 7 and 8. Remember we said that in the scale? That's how you can find a minor really fast. Same thing works with C. Automatically, that's your relative minor. F, it works too. Watch. D minor is the relative minor for F. It's a cool thing. It's easy to do too. And it's great to play those bass lines, and it'll lead your listener or your own chords into the next part, you know, and it's a cool thing. Instead of just strumming the whole time, you're playing a little bass line. So here's A, down to the 6. I played that 8, 7, 6, and I got my relative minor. So you can find the relative minor by walking the bass line down. Real important concept. Walk a bass line down into your minor, your relative minor from the major. Walk the bass line down. Walking the bass line down will get your minor, relative minor from your major chord. All right. So that's how you find, we did the major, play the minor version of the chord, right? Remember we said the F in the bridge, play the 4 chord in the bridge. Let's say it's the key of C, the 4 chord, play the minor chord, substitute a minor for a major. That's one substitution you could do. You can substitute the relative minor, right? Walking it down. Substitute a relative minor for the chord. You can substitute for your 1 chord, right? In the key of C, you can substitute the major 7 for your 1 chord. You could sing it like this. Don't let the sun catch you crying. But it's so much better with that major 7. Don't let the sun catch you crying. I'm substituting the major 7 on my 1 chord in the key of C. So it's a C major 7 chord. Key of G, a G major 7 chord. Yeah, Louise.
I was looking up these chords on charts, and I noticed there's like 15 ways to play.
I know. And it's so confusing. It's like it's mind blowing. So I chose just some of my own favorite versions, and I ignore all those wacky ones. I don't play them. I just stay away from them. You know, it's like, geez, it's too much variety in my life. I don't need that much. You know, I like my old standard favorite varieties of chords, and I'll show you what those are. We'll get to those in just a second. I appreciate it, Louise, because it took me for a long time to realize I didn't have to know all the chords. I just had to know the versions I liked.
Thank you.
What I would recommend to everybody is to learn all of the notes on the guitar down here in the first position. Know that everybody probably knows E, A, D, G, B, E, then strings, right? You should probably learn all those notes. E, F sharp, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, B flat, B, C, C sharp, D. And so you can go, where's the B flat? It's there. It's there. Where's the E flat? It's there. It's there. If you learn the notes in the first position on the guitar, that's going to help you a lot. You don't have to learn all of them all the way up here, all those wacky notes all up in here. But down here in the first position where you don't have to shift your hand around, it's really helpful to know what those notes are in that first position. You can also substitute for the 1 chord instead of playing the major 7, right? You can play the 6. Let's go up down to the 6, okay? You can play the 6th note in your major chord. So I'm going to play the major chord. Now we'll go down to the 6th. There is the root, the top note, right? C, B, A. We walk down to the A, right? Now I'm playing the C chord with an A in it. You don't want to play the 7th too. These 2 notes together is clashy. You want to play just. Now I'm going to get to something else that I think is really cool, is moving a note around in a chord. This is a fun thing to do. You can take that C, then you can go to the major 7 version and to the 6 version and back to the 7. So now we have a little musical line going in our C chord. Nothing could be finer than to be in Carolina in the morning. And here's another cool thing you can do is you can move a note down in a minor chord. Nothing could be sweeter than my sweetie when I see her. Nothing could be sweeter than my sweetie when I see her. I'm moving in a D minor chord, taking the D note in a D minor chord, and I'm walking the D note down. Nothing could be sweeter than my sweetie when I see her. And yeah, there's names for all those chords. It's D minor, then D something, and then D minor 7, and then D something else. And I don't really care. I just like to play those notes in the chord. I can look them up and see what they are. John's got a cool little app that does it, and he can share that with you. But most of the time, it's just you use them in certain songs, and you like the way it happens. Nothing could be finer than to be in Carolina in the morning. Nothing could be sweeter than my sweetie, when I see her in the morning. Fun thing to do. It works really well in songs. Instead of just going, nothing could be finer than to be in Carolina in the morning. Nothing could be sweeter than my sweetie when I see her in the morning. I mean, it works. You can do it that way, but it's so much cooler to have that little moving line. And it gives it just a little bit of a second melody on top of what you're singing. Anytime you can find a little second melody for your guitar part, boy, your songs are just jump to a new level. Really, really helps to have just a little tiny bit of a melody. That's not that much. But boy, it's so cool. Nothing could be finer than to be in Carolina. I like it. I think it's fabulous. You can do that same moving around of notes in a song like, okay, here's one that I think is fabulous that does all kinds of suspensions and moving a note around and making another second little melody out of it. And it's a John Lennon song. Hold the guitar up so you can see a little bit. Okay. Here I stand, head in hand, turn my face to the wall. But what he does is he hangs his pinky on this G through all the chords. Here I stand, head in hand, turn my face to the wall. He just anchors his pinky on that G through almost the whole song. Let me do a little bit of it. Here I stand, head in hand, turn my face to the wall. If she's gone, I can't go on, feeling 2 foot small. Here comes the moving bass line. Everywhere people stare, each and every day. I can see them laughing at me. Watch this bass part, and I hear them say, he walks it all the way down, and I hear them say, hey, that is so cool. So it goes F, E, D, C, B, A. Hey, you got to hide your love, a suspension way. Hey, you got to hide your love away. Just really, really cool stuff and a good flute solo. You're right, Kathy. Charlene plays accordion on that, and it sounds really cool when we do it. It sounds very Irishy too, the way we do it. So that's moving a bass line around against your chord. So I'm playing the F, and I'm just going to keep playing this F chord and just move my bass line against it. I'll hang on whatever fingers I can in that F chord while I play that bass line, and it just works. Even though it sounds like it's clashing at times, it resolves. So you get this dissonance release, tension release. It's a really, really cool thing. to get those tensions, those weird sounding chords, but then they go somewhere. That's what diminished chords do. It's a weird sound, but it'll resolve. It'll sound okay when you finalize it, resolve it. Okay, so those are alternate and substitutions you can do. Now I want to talk about something that's kind of weird, and it's called the 5 chord of the 5 chord, or the 5 of 5. And here we go again. Here's our chord chart, our circle of fifths, right? So in the key of C, the 5 chord is C, E, G. It's the next one over in the circle of fifths. That's why it's fifth. C, D, E, F, G. It's 5 notes up. If you go to the right, you get to the G. Go up 5 more from that, G, you get to the D. That's the 5 of G. So G is the 5 of C, but D is the 5 of G. Does that make sense? Is that confusing to you, or did you get that?
That makes sense.
You understand what I'm saying here? A little bit. Okay, so let's go again to the C. We'll count up C. That's 1, D, E, F, G. We went up 5 and we got to the G chord, right? Now we'll go up 5 from G. G, B, D, F, A. What did I realize? G, A, B, C, D, F, G, A, B, C, D. You get to D. You have to count G. G, A, B, C, D. So that's 5 up from G. So the 5 chord in the key of C is G, right? If you play the 5 chord and you play the dominant 7, the 7, the G7 chord, it wants to resolve, doesn't it? It sounds like it wants to go somewhere. It resolves. The 5 chord, in this case, the G, wants to resolve to the 1 chord. That's the way the tension is built in music. It just happens. It wants to resolve. Let's go up to the 5 of G, and that's the D, and make that a 7 chord. So I'm playing a D7 now. So that'll move this way. So I get a double tension release thing going on. Hank Williams used this in almost every song he wrote.
Huh.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. I'll show you how it works, okay? And it happens that 5 of 5, the 5 chord of G, so the 5 of that is D, right? So here's the C. How do I find the 5 of 5? It's a D chord. In the key of C, it would be the 2 chord played as a major chord, not as a minor chord. In the key of C, the 2 chord is usually a minor chord, right? But we're going to make it a major chord and make it a major with the dominant 7. Is that making sense, Sally, or am I out there for you? So now we're playing the 2 chord as a major chord, a major with the 7th, a dominant 7, D7 to G7 to C. And it works like this. Hey, hey, good looking, what you got cooking? There's that 2 as a major. How's about cooking something up to the 5-7? So it's 5 of 5, something up with me. Hey, sweet baby, don't you think maybe we could find a brand new recipe? Isn't that just spectacular? The 5 of 5. The 5 of 5. It's your 2 chord majored instead of minor. It's majored. I got to take a sip of my tea. Because that 7, dominant 7 wants to resolve, the D wants to go to the G, but we'll make that one a dominant 7, and now it wants to go back to C. And remember we talked about sliding into chords? Works really great with Hank songs. Hey, good looking, what you got cooking? How's about cooking something up with me? Hey, sweet baby, don't you think maybe we could find us a brand new recipe? Now it goes to the middle section. It goes to the 4 chord. We could find a brand new recipe. I'm gonna throw my date book over the fence. Find me. Well, what he does to get to the middle part of the song, the F, he turns the 1 chord into a 7 chord. Now that wants to resolve. And what do you think it resolves to? C is the 5/7 of F. C is the 5/7 of F. I'll prove it to you. Here's the chart. Here's F. You go up 5, you get to C. So you make a C7, it wants to go to F. You make a G7, it wants to go to C. You make a D7, it wants to go to G. A7 wants to go to D. See how that works? They want to resolve to the left of each chord. These charts are a little bit weird, a little bit confusing, but it can be helpful. If you wonder where's the minor, you can look at where's the relative minor to the chord I'm playing. I'm playing an E flat chord. What's the relative minor to that? I can look on the chord chart and find out it's a C sharp minor. You know, it's like you don't have to think about it too much. I mean, C minor. The relative minor for E flat major chord is a C minor chord, but it's like something you don't remember in your head. But those 5 of 5s are so cool. Like Hank just like used that to no end. You're cheating hard, gonna make you weak. And we'll slide around. You cry and cry, just you'll cry and cry and try to sleep, but sleep won't come the whole day through. Your cheating heart is gonna tell on you. Now we're going to make it a 5/7. When the tears come down like pouring rain, you walk around. D7 is the 5 of G. And you call my name. You walk the floor the way I do. Your cheating heart is gonna tell on you. Too jazzy. But Hank used that 5 of 5 and the 5/7 chord on the 1, turn it into a 5/7. When the tears come down, it makes it want to go to that 4 so badly. When the tears come down like pouring rain, you walk around that's fun to do. That little bass line is just walking up into the D. Brown, and you call my name. Slide into it. You walk the floor the way I do. You're cheating hard. You're gonna tell on you. So that's the 5 of 5. I love it. Anytime you can like add that extra little tension to get to the next section, it really works so good. So the next thing that's really cool is boogie woogie bass lines. A boogie woogie bass line is like the basis for rock and roll. It's the basis for blues. It's the basis for so much music. Boogie woogie bass line is basically this. It's playing the notes of the chord. Do, mi, so, and the 6th note. It's using a 6th chord as your root chord. So in the key of E, it would be that D. That's the 7. There's the 6. It's using a 6 in the bass line. Do, mi, so, 6, 7, 6, 7, 1, 3, 5, 6, 7. You get that feel? This thing called love, I can't handle it. This thing called love, I get around to it. I kind of like it. Crazy little thing called love. It's the boogie woogie bass line. So much rock and roll is based off that, but it can be simplified. It can be simplified even further. You don't have to play all that. You can just do the just those 2 notes. Well, move it on over, rock it on over. It's going 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6. Move it on over, 5, 6. Rock it on over. Move over now, dog. A big bad dog is moving in. But that boogie woogie bass line, way down in Louisiana, close to New Orleans, back up in the woods among the evergreens, a little log cabin made of earth and wood, a little country boy named Johnny B. Good. Well, he never ever learned to read or write so well, but he could play guitar just like a ringing a bell. Go, go. I'm not playing full chords, I'm just playing the bass notes. Go, go. Go, Johnny, go, go. The 5 to 6. Go, Johnny, go, go. You remember when we talked about guitar tuning, about how the guitar is tuned? It's tuned so that if you're playing an E, the next, there's your 4 chord. It's E, A. Your A is your 4 chord. It's tuned in 4ths. It's tuned in 4ths. So if you do this, Go to the 4 chord, that's the A. You just move over one string and do the exact same thing. Just move your finger over one. Here's the 4. I'm moving over one string. I think I can explain this a little bit better. And I'm going to try to do whiteboard. Look out. This is
Dennis,
my first time.
This is a good time for any questions.
Yeah. Is there questions? There's probably 1,000 questions. Come on, Alice, hit me with a question. Boogie Woogie bass line. 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, or just 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6, 5, 6. Kathy.
I can't type it, so I have to ask it.
Yeah.
When you're doing the boogie woogie bass line, why isn't it, or is it raised seventh or just a seventh?
In a boogie woogie bass line.
Like, let's say I'm playing on the E string. Should I be playing, not a seventh, a sixth? Should I be playing the sixth in the scale or sharp?
It's actually the dominant seventh that you play in a boogie woogie bass line.
Thank you.
Because let's say in the key of E, right? In Johnny Be Good, right? Way down in Louisiana, close to New Orleans. I'm playing 5, 6, but actually I'm playing that over E7 chord. Way down in Louisiana, close to New Orleans. It's the E7 chord. Way down in Louisiana, close to New Orleans. Way back up in the woods among the evergreens. So you're playing it over a 7th chord. It's all dominant 7ths. Gives it that swampy feeling playing with a dominant 7 as your 1 chord. John Fogerty. If you get lost, you come on home to Green River. John Fogerty songs, he used that 1 dominant 7 as his bass chord, as his root home chord all the time. Dominant 7 as a 1 chord. It's a really cool way to write songs. Gives you a whole different swampy feeling. It's really, really fun. I'm going to try this whiteboard thing. Oh my God, I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll give it a shot. Okay, here we go. Whiteboard. And now I'm going to try to go to this other little form I had. No. Not that. This? No. I don't think I like whiteboards. I'm not very good at drawing, but I'm going to give it a shot here anyway. Okay, so I'm going to try to draw a chord diagram. So that's the E, A, D, G, B, and the high E string. Okay. Whew, I'm doing better than I thought I would. Here's the 1st fret. Here's our 2nd fret. Here's our 3rd fret. 3rd fret, come on, 3rd fret. 3rd fret's not existing. 3rd fret, there it goes. 4th fret. 5th. That's probably all we need. Okay, So in the key of E, this is our E string here, this one, right? We've got the notes. It's hard for me to do, folks. We've got this note here, this, I'm drawing that. Why is that not drawing? E, oh, okay, that's it. There it is. Okay, we got that note E. This is the open, this is the note B right here, that first black dot. All we're doing is going from that B to the next note up from it, which would be this note here. Let's see if I can draw this. There it goes. To that note there. That would be a C sharp on the A string, right? We're going ba bum 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 while playing an open string down here. Da 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 da. Right, we got that? Okay, so if I take those same two, whoa, get away, undo that. If I take those same two notes, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. And I move them over one string and play this A as my open string, I do the exact same thing. And it gives me the same pattern. Now I've moved up a fourth to my 4 chord. All I did was move over a string, but I'm playing the exact same thing. I'm playing, come on. I'm not real good at this, but I'm trying. There we go. There's the one version, da 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 da, with an open E string here, the B note and the C sharp note, da 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 da. Now we go to the 4 chord. All we have to do is move over a string, and geez, this is weird, and play the exact same thing over here. Da 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 da. Now, when we want to go to our 5 chord, how do we get to our 5 chord? Well, we could take these two same notes and move up from 4 to 5, and they would work right here. Da, 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 except we had an open string here, so we have to move that up too also. So we would have to add a new note here. We would have to add this one here. That one. So now that would be our B, because here's the B. Instead of an open string, now we have to push down a finger here and play the B there. So you see that we took that same thing we were doing at A, we just moved up a whole step, and now we've got B. And that's a basic boogie woogie thing. Okay, so the exact same thing works if you do it in the key of A. Let me take my two notes here that I'm doing this boogie woogie bass line with. Put them back here in the key of A, right? This is an open string here. Da 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 da. Let's play it in the key of A. Da 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 da. Now I want to move up to the 4 chord. All I have to do is take these two notes and move them over a string. Why aren't they moving over a string? There we go. Move over a string with them, and now they're playing. Get over here. Now they're playing the exact same thing over here. Now this is an open D, right? That's our 4 chord for A. Da 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 da. And then when I want to get to the 5 chord, I'll take these two notes and I'll slide up a whole step up to here, and I'll add a new note here. Because I had an open string, now I got to put a note here and play that one, hold that one down while I do this. Da 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 da. That's my 5. I'm going to try to do it live for you here. Hopefully it's not as confusing. Hopefully the two of them together will help you. Okay, here we go. In the key of A, in the key of E. There's that B. It's kind of hard to see. Now I'll move over a string. Way back in Louisiana, close to New Orleans, in the woods among the evergreens, there stood a long cabin made of earth and wood, where lived a country boy named Johnny B. Good. Now we need to go to the 5 chord. Well, here was the 4. So we move it up a whole step. Never learned to learn, but now we need this lower note down here. So we got to add a finger. And this is the big stretch that's hard to do. It's hard to do. It's hard to do. So that's why you do it on the low E string, all of it. Here it is, all on the low E string. Now I'm doing it on the low E string. Same notes, but it's here. And then when I go to the 5, it's real easy. I just slide up. That boogie woogie bass line is the basis for all of rock and roll. I mean, walking through party at the county jail. Prison band was jumping, they began to wail. Band was really rocking and the joint did swing. Should have heard the knocked out jailbird sing, let's rock. Everybody, let's rock. Everybody in the old cell block was dancing to the jailhouse rock. Ending with the 6th chord. So much rock and roll is built on that 5/6 bass line. It sounds really good to mute it to.
Does anybody have any questions for Dennis? We have about 10 minutes left.
Whoa, we are almost out of time. I can't believe it's gone by so quick for me. All right, gonna hit this swing thing really hard here for you because I just absolutely love swing. And it's all based on the 6th chord. And the version of the 6th chord that you need to learn is the one that I'm gonna show you right here. It is, where are you, 6th chord? It's the, do I have it up? I don't have it up. Here it is, the 6th chord. This is the version you need to learn. Let's try this with your 2nd finger on the 2nd dot on your guitar, usually the 2nd dot. That would be the 5th fret. And that would be the note A that you're playing with your 2nd finger on the 5th fret. See, Alice has a guitar, John has a guitar. You try that. You play the 2nd finger, you play the low A note. And then the 1st finger is going to skip over a fret and down one. And then your 4th finger picks up. And then the 3rd finger. It's a different form for your hand. It's not like any of the chords you play already. So it takes a while for your hand to get used to this new feeling of that chord. But once you have it, oh my God, this is the greatest chord ever. It slides. Kathy, that was up on the 5th fret with your your middle finger would be on the A string on the second dot on your guitar. That 6th chord, my God, that is so beautiful. And it works on so many songs. How about if we do this song? She's the sweetest little rosebud that Texas ever knew. Her eyes are like the diamonds, they sparkle like the dew. But try it with a 6th chord. She's the sweetest little rosebud that Texas ever knew. Her eyes are like the diamond, they sparkle like the dew. You could talk about your clementine, sing merrily, but the yellow rose of Texas is the only girl for me. It just adds so much to swing, that 6th chord. That's the only one you ever need to learn, really, right there. Couple other my favorite chords are this one. This is what I call the lazy minor chord, because it looks more complicated than it is. Basically, all you have to do is throw all your fingers down. So I'm playing on the B note, which is the 3rd dot up on the guitar neck. My low finger is playing that B note. And then I'm just barring over these other 3. And it's just really comfortable. All you have to do is lay your hand down. And it slides. Put that in with the A chord. They go together really well. That is such a fabulous chord too. And it's so much fun because you can play that chord without tiring your hand out. It doesn't take a lot of exertion. Now, I remember I was talking about 5/7 chord and all.
Dennis, we have a question from Kathy.
Okay, Kathy, what's the question?
When you slide, is there a way to make the fingers less to not squeak as much?
Oh, did you put it in the chat, Kathy, the question? Oh, okay. I have to go look at the chat.
In the
somehow.
chat, yes.
Oh, just read it to me because I can't get to my chat right now.
Sorry, my fingers squeak all the time and yours don't. Is there a way to make my fingers not squeak when I
on the strings?
Yeah,
I squeak like crazy. I get.
Okay. Then never mind. I'll embrace the squeak.
I embrace the noise. I really do. I think it's part of the character of guitar playing is to get the squeaks and clicks and pops. And even when you're playing something like bottleneck guitar, kind of the rattly noise is kind of cool sometimes, you know, like a bar playing with a the noise is cool. It's part of the character. You know, you take all that stuff out, it sounds like some MIDI version of the guitar playing, you know? It doesn't sound human. So we only got 5 minutes. Real quick, the D7 chord I love to play. Any 5/7 chord I love to play. I love to throw it in the 9th. And this is that version right here. So let's try this on okay, across from the 5th fret, you would put your 2nd finger down. That would be an open D note. It's same as open D. And then your 1st finger goes next to it there. Great swing jazz 5/9 chord. So, right? Really cool sound. Adding a 9th to it adds so much. And I don't know if you need to know this one. I use this often because it's a cool way to go when you're playing bar chords. If I'm playing G and I want to go to a G7 chord, I'll use this one. And that works really well for me because it's right in the same position. Real quick here in the last 5 minutes, I'm going to play you a song with a lot of these swing chords in it here. And it's kind of a slow swing tune. Nat King Cole did it. And it's just a great song. It's called Love. L, that's that one chord, right? 1-6. L is for the way you look. There's my lazy 2 chord. Look at me. There's that 5-9. O is for the only one I see. Okay, here we go. L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. V is very, very extraordinary. E is even more than anyone that you adore, and love is all that I can give to you. Love is more than just a game for two. Now two in love can make it. Take my heart, but please don't break it. Diminished, and love is made for me and you. Those swing chords, most beautiful things in the world. If you only learn out of this whole thing how to play a G6 like this, it's well worth it. I just love this chord. I can't tell you how much. And I use it in every time I play any kind of standard song, any kind of swing standard song, I'll use that 6 chord. Like, how about this? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dennis. Minor. I substituted the minor for the major one. Happy birthday to you. You can swing so much stuff. It's really, really fun to do. From this valley, they say you are going. We will miss your bright eyes and sweet smile. For they say you have taken the sunshine that brightens our pathway wild. Almost any of those Western tunes swing really well. So there we go. A brief history of chords and how to substitute them and how to slide them around. And I hope you take that 6 chord and write a song with it, because it will just open you up to a whole new world of playing. Are you saying bye, Louisa? You got a question?
I had another question.
Hit me.
The 6 chord, I believe, I'm not too good with math, but the 6 chord you use for Jerry and the Pacemakers, is that the same one you showed us the diagram or a different one?
I did a Dave Clark 5 song.
Dave Clark 5.
No.
That put the 6 chord in there. And what they did in that song is really cool. They moved a note, like one of those moving note songs, and in a G chord, in a C chord, right? It's in the key of C. Here's a G note in the middle there, open G note, right? It's right that I should care about you. And keep going up. Now we've got a C dominant 7. And try to make you happy when you're blue. It's right it's right to feel the way. 4 chord, I do to the 4 minor. Remember that? Because instead of playing the F, I'm going to play the relative minor. Because I love you. Because the 5 of 5. Because I love you. And end on the 6 chord. It works in pop music too. It's not just jazz. That's 6 chord.
Yeah.
Great thing. It'll work in folky music too. There's examples out there. Whew, that was exhausting, wasn't it?
I'll have the video and get that out to you guys tonight.
I'm happy to go over anything with anybody at any time. Just send me an email and I'm happy to, kind of explain stuff if it's still fuzzy. But it takes a long time to really get it under your hand. But once you've got that 6 chord, like I say, it's a friend for life. You'll never want to do without it. Okay,
I appreciate everybody coming.
Thanks a lot
and being a part of this class. Thank you so much for spending your time with us.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Be well.
Later. Have a good night.
Night.